Here. Here.
Thank you. Ms. Gibbs, Ms. Remsen,
Here.
Mr. Goodwin,
Here.
Ms. Prock,
Here.
Ms. Penn Williams,
Here.
Ms. Palladino Christopher, you're muted, Diana.
Here, apologies.
That's okay. That's okay. And our consultants, Sam Mather and Preeti Mather are here.
Yes,
I don't see Stuart yet, and I'm here. So at this point, we need, hopefully you've had a chance to review the minutes. And I'd like to be able to have those accepted. Is there someone that can initiate that?
I move to accept the minutes.
And is
And I'll
there a
second it. I'll second.
Great, thank you. And at this time, we will solicit any public participation. We do have 2 attendees, and I'm just looking to see, we don't have any hands up.
Through the chair, this is the secretary. You need
Yes.
to vote on that, the minutes.
Oh, I'm very sorry. Thank you.
Right. Not a problem.
So we've had a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm going to abstain because I don't believe I received a copy of the minutes.
Okay. And I would assume there aren't any notes. Okay, so at this point, we do have some guests, and I do not see any hands up. So we'll move on to discussions of our redistricting options. I'm going to start the conversation with our time schedule is that we really should be formalizing our recommendations this evening as far as what everybody's preferences are, because next week's meeting would be the meeting that we would have to finalize things. And then our public hearing is on September 25th, not Thursday, that's a Wednesday, so that we would be able to have Preeti and Sam with us. So I would, I'm going to skip one little thing here. I just want to make sure, I'm sure you all realize it, but Diana Palladino Christopher is officially within our group here on the Reorganization Advisory Committee that was submitted and approved by council earlier this week. So congratulations and welcome aboard, Diana.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Okay, so I invite, and Kia is here. Thank you, Kia. I invite you all to kind of take turns and discuss what your thoughts are. And I'm actually gonna, you can raise your hand and we can go from there. Okay. I know that Scott had put an email together with his thoughts. Could you start?
And that's
with
why
that,
I didn't say
Scott?
anything, Ken.
Thank you. Thank you.
I figured I said it in the email.
Right.
last
This
night,
is
so
this is
still
for
true.
public. This is for public knowledge.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. So just in that case, then I'll go back through the highlights of what I remember from the email. And as noted today, those emails will be entered into the public record.
Correct.
So that's there's no backdoor deals here going on, people. In the email that I sent to the folks on this call, you know, I think I was just trying to summarize what we've heard over the last 2 months as we've been going through the options with Preeti and Sam, you know, they had provided us 2 options initially. I felt like both were good options, and they addressed both the mandate of the assignment, which was, to ensure, I want to say, a relatively even distribution among the five A through E districts, as well as then, racial diversity and avoid any sort of weird carve outs or gerrymandering like we've seen from other maps around the country where one party has the ability to force something down people's throats. I felt like both of those first two options did a good job at addressing that. I felt like there were some concerns that were raised at that time that I heard that dealt with neighborhoods. And then Stuart, who has been a regular contributor on this call or in these meetings, had raised concerns around the creating what he was referring to as like dwarf voting districts. With the mandate being that we have to use census blocks as they're defined by the census count that was done a few years back. That's sort of our overarching guidepost is we can play around with redistricting however we want, but we still need to stick within the census blocks. So I thought both of those were good options. I felt like some of the questions or concerns that Stuart raised led to a better option, which was option 3 that Sam and Preeti came up with. While not perfect according to what Stuart is looking for, the perfect that Stuart is looking for does not exist. And so that's where I was saying, okay, what is the best alternative that we have of the options in front of us? And then Diana, you came in a couple of weeks ago and provided additional insight. And Diane, Cece, I know I've heard you also comment, around either concerns or opportunities that you see. And so from that, then, especially coming out of this last week's call, Preeti and Sam came forward with a fourth option. I felt like that, to the best of my knowledge, addresses a lot of the concerns that you had, Diana. And as many of the concerns of Stuart's that we can address within the construct that we're working in. So that was why I was saying, okay, I'm option 4 seems to be the best alternative that we've got. But that said, I'm also happy with option 3 as well. So that's my thoughts and that I think I put in the email last night. So
Anyone want to go next? Diana?
I see Diana's had her hand raised, so.
Yeah, go ahead, Diana.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so since I'm in my official capacity now, I would just like to express some thoughts that I know I have already. But since the last meeting, I have really deep dived and taken into consideration and had some conversations and email exchange with Stuart. So first, I think it's important to understand the goal of the committee. And the way that I see it, the goal of the committee is to ensure that Norwalk's districts are modernized, balanced, and better equipped to serve the city's diverse neighborhoods. While not legally required, the geographic alignment is the best practice and used nationwide in redistricting to ensure districts are fair and balanced. It respects the census blocks and reduces population deviations between the districts, which then ensures equitable and proper representation. I understand that the taxing districts are important. I think we've all acknowledged that, but this is, in my opinion, where the split districts make sense and are certainly feasible with minimal costs and reasonable costs, relatively simple adjustments in terms of elections and the Registrar of Voters office. I did attach the election costs And I'm happy to also share that at any point, or if anyone needs that again, I'm happy to send that over. But I do think it's important to note that all elections, we are subject to primaries, we're subject to audits. So the Register of Voters Office does have the ability to, request additional expenditures and have them fulfilled through the city of Norwalk. Also with some of these changes, they won't affect every election cycle. So that's also important to note. But the city does plan for these election expenses. So with that, again, tackling the concerns that were brought up, while every effort to ensure the taxing districts are taken into consideration, we do not necessarily have to do that. If it makes sense, and the pros outweigh the cons. So the bottom line is that the constitutional standard for one person, one vote focuses on the Common Council districts and the Board of Education districts. And that's, the purpose of this committee. The districts must meet the constitutional requirements. The taxing districts, on the other hand, don't fall into that same category. So I see us as not bound by the taxing districts. And while best efforts, are outlined in the charter to be made, they should not prevent this committee from making changes that are logical and necessary to improve the representation and minimize the balance and the deviation. And again, we saw most of that within District A, District C, and I do feel as an advisory that neighborhood continuity matters, and that best example was neighborhoods like Spring Hill and East Norwalk have very different concerns in terms of infrastructure and traffic. So I do feel that it's important that the representation reflects that. And I think it's a big deal. And if we're taking a look at this and we're modernizing and we're updating, then that should be, in my opinion, something that's strongly taken into consideration. And I guess one, last point I really just want to drive home is the potential costs of adding those small or split, precincts are outweighed by the benefits of better representation. And they're reasonable, they're cost efficient, they are not $100,000. And again, if you take a look at those financial documents, which I don't know if because this is public I should share or not since I'm speaking to it, but for best example, primaries typically run around $7,000 to $12,000. And my assumption, and based on the research that I did, we should expect that split precincts would emulate that amount, minus the cost of a police officer, because split precincts would share that one police officer. And then the overall supplies would be shared as well, pens, pencils, things of that nature. Individual costs would be ballots. And then in terms of tabulators, we learned that is indeed paid for by the Secretary of State's office. And to date, those tabulators, it's a one-time purchase. And to date, the last time that we purchased tabulators was 24 years ago. So they do.
And it sounded like Stuart said that we needed new tabulators anyway, based on some modernization going on across the state.
Correct.
So
And that's definitely coming down the pipeline as well. And certainly if it wasn't soon enough, I think the cost for, 3 or 4 maximum tabulators is feasible, and again, paid by the Secretary of State, and certainly would not require for, a maximum of 4 tabulators, additional storage. And so, yeah, that's pretty much where I am. I feel it's been 60 years since we had any significant changes. It's long overdue. And I, believe in the work that the consultants are doing. I think it's why we're here. And I think they bring a wealth of expertise, and applying the nationwide standard should be what Norwalk strives for. So I think we shouldn't dismiss, the knowledge and the recommendations. And I think honestly, that's it. We just, in my opinion, should not, risk updating or not updating the district boundaries and keeping them outdated, because I think, eventually they will be ineffective. And I think we owe it to voters to, have proper representation. So, I think that's everything. I support anything that you guys choose, and certainly as your incoming register of voters, once official, I'm committed to, making sure we have seamless and efficient elections, and we accurately get out the communications to voters.
So Diana, quick question. Is there one of the four options that you think best fits the bill of what you were saying a few minutes ago?
Sure. So I personally am in favor of option 4.
Okay.
I feel that I feel that it best reflects all of those things, all of those points that were mentioned. And I also think it highlights some, it offers some good shifting in terms of Ponus Ridge School into District D, and provides like a beneficial balance within E as well. So yes, I'm in favor of option 4.
Cool.
Ms. Cece, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I also had thank you, Ken. I also had a question too for Diana. Hi, Diana.
Hi.
I'm just wondering if your sense is, after we read your recap, and also from Scott as well, and I know those are going to be public, but maybe this is for everyone to consider as we continue the discussion. But I think, based on the dollar analysis that Diana provided, I wonder if we can kind of all move off the mark now that a budget would be any kind of a barrier to this, and that we can also move off the mark of the question of the taxing districts, because they're not going to change, and we've already done a lot of analysis to show that nothing's really going to align with those. And then and maybe just to clarify, Diana, you had mentioned that we haven't done this in a long time, and to make significant changes to the districts. But honestly, in the each of these scenarios that we're looking at, I don't see anything that's really, that I would call significant. It's not like a real major shift. It's some alignment that makes sense in terms of what the census data is showing us and what the city stats are showing us. I think there's still maybe some question as to the validity of those, and how fluid those numbers are, and do they really capture some of the real socioeconomic dynamics of some of the pockets in the city. I'll probably still have questions on that, but I think if we can move as a group, if we're going forward in the discussion, to move off of the taxing districts, the cost as a barrier, and the fact that this seems, for the most part, to not be something significant in terms of thanks.
Anybody want to go next? Diane?
I can throw my I wasn't going to comment. I really wanted to have the benefit of hearing my colleagues.
Sure.
Can I pass for now on?
Absolutely.
Because I really am interested in hearing other folks. Thanks.
What I may suggest at this point, because we've had 2 people talk about option 4, that Preeti, if you could put up option 4 and the pros and cons, so that the public who's watching, and we can all kind of go through that so that the rest of us can determine whether or not that is a viable option for us. Thank you.
And because this is being recorded for people to review and will be posted as well, if you can just go over the legend for this again, so that people can take a look as they're watching the video and understand what the demarcations are there.
Sure. Yeah, so the area which is shaded, that is the area that is being recommended as a change. And as you recall, District A had the most population and District C had the least. So we took this part out, and this is option 4, and we assigned it to District C. Then what we did was the second change is we took this area and we took it from District A and we assigned it to District E. And then we took these 2 blocks, and the primary reason is that Bonus Ridge Middle School is a polling place for District D. So this was Stuart's suggestion that we thought was really good. So we put it in District D. And then to balance and to make sure, that our deviation was low, we took this area, which is along State Highway 123. We took these blocks and we assigned them to District E. So these are the changes. And if you look at these pins, these are where the Common Council members reside, and the green ones are where the Board of Education members reside. And if you see closely that there is one member who might be affected, but then this particular Board of Education member is at large, so it really doesn't matter where they live. So these are the changes that we have recommended. And if you've been following, and this is for the public, that there would be a need to create 3-4 additional precincts.
Preeti, could you put up the option pro and con screen for us, please?
Sure, I can.
Thank you.
I do have one comment about option 4. Pretty, are you able to bring that up one more time for me? Is
Sure.
that okay? So the only thing, I really like the change where with Ponus Ridge. The only thought that I have, especially speaking to neighborhood continuity, when I see, I think it was Felix Lane, part of Honus Ave, is that correct? Affected by the change. I just wonder, I just feel like that I'm concerned that those individuals would feel displaced, because to me, those are more in line with West Norwalk. Does anyone else have any
Are you
thoughts?
talking about this area?
Is that where Felix Lane is?
Let me pull the active map up.
Okay. Yeah, so I would feel. I know I strive so hard in A and C to talk about neighborhood continuity, and then I feel like when I think of Felix Lane in this area, where Jean Ave and Glen Ave and Ponus Ave are, to me, that represents West Norwalk. So my curiosity would be if you kept the suggestion of Stewart, but you perhaps didn't take those lines there, does that drastically affect the deviation?
Okay. Since we are at a very low deviation, we have room for change. So 3.87, what we can do is right now, we can take a look at these.
Preeti,
Yes.
I'm gonna ask a quick question here. And the part that you've just highlighted, that is moving into District E, is that correct?
That is correct.
So that district is associated with West Norwalk. So I'm not sure if that addresses your question, Diana.
Okay, understood.
Okay.
Then I apologize. I had
No,
it
that's okay.
and I apologize. Okay. So that makes complete sense.
So it's
Well,
all
if-
right.
let me just ask a question then too, Ken. So you're talking about when you say associated, are you referencing a geographic area, or are you talking about the West Norwalk Association? Because nothing's-
I'm not specifically talking about the West Norwalk Association.
Gotcha, okay.
What it's District E. West Norwalk is encompassed within District E,
Gotcha.
as is row 8.
Okay, I see. So
That
currently,
makes sense.
that area is currently D then.
Right.
It's
Oh,
And-
okay. Then yes, I love the change. Okay. Okay, got it. But then part of Hunter's Lane becomes District D.
Stays District D.
Yeah.
It's already District D. It just would stay there,
Okay.
I think.
It changes from A to D. Am I right, Preeti?
if we are talking about this area, then the
No.
change is between D
By
and,
Ponus Middle School.
oh yeah. This one is currently in E and it's going to D.
Okay, so then to me, that would be, so part of Hunter's Lane becomes District D.
Well, it looks like it's the street that
Is that the boundary?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's the boundary of West Norwalk. Not that that makes a difference, but that is the boundary.
So for confirmation, Hunter's Lane is staying in E.
oh, if you look
Well,
at
the
One
it,
west
side.
side of Hunter's Lane, it looks
Yeah.
like stays in E.
yeah,
The houses around Thorpe Lane, it looks like those would move.
yeah. So it seems like that all these houses are on Hunter's Lane and they are still a part of E. And all these on this side, which may have a Thorpe Lane address or which may have some other address, they are in part of D now.
Yeah, so if you live across the street from a neighbor there on Hunter's Lane, it looks like depending on which side of the street you live on, which isn't much different from where we are here in C. One side of the street on Duck Pond is Westport and one side is Norwalk.
Yeah, I don't think that's that significant. Okay.
Okay.
They change districts, but they get to vote very close to home now,
That's true.
Yeah.
essentially.
Did they vote? Stuart, they voted at Kendall. Is that correct?
No, they
Previously?
voted at Fox Run before.
Okay. I have a family member who lives on Mar. That's right in the middle there. He votes at Kendall. Sometimes he votes at Fox Run. Sometimes.
Well, these are only the municipal map. The state map
Yeah.
is completely different.
Right, okay.
So under option 4, then what is the new mix of the deviation numbers, the population numbers by district? Do we have that little grid?
It's 3 point something.
I don't know if you can see well, but here, these are the numbers that you can see, and these are the differences from the ideal population. So it's, you can see that C has a little bit more than the others. D also has more, E has less, and we have balanced A such that A is also less, B is less, so C and D are more and E is less. And this is the maximum deviation is always between the most populated and the least populated. So here it's telling us that B is the least and C is the most.
And Preeti, you had given us guidance before that it was, our goal is to stay under 10%, correct?
That is correct. So there is room. So if you think that there is something that doesn't make sense or some of the changes, we can play around with them, but we are sitting at a real good spot at 3.87%.
Hey, Preeti, do you mind pulling back up? You had a slide that actually showed the 4 options side by side that I thought was
Sure.
Was a helpful view before we did the deep dive here.
Sure. Sorry about that. I think I shared the same screen again. Okay, let's see.
It's there. Yeah.
There it is.
So I'm just going to, okay. So just a quick review. Option 1, we had a part of this change here and here. These were the 2 changes that we had recommended. And the maximum deviation was 2.91%, which is the lowest of all. And there are these 2 changes. And then in option number 2, we had just one area, which we are still have it in option 4. So that was the only one. And the maximum deviation was 4.78 and just one change. In option 3, we said, let's not touch this area because of the taxing district. So what we did was we had a change here, 1, 2, 3, and then we took some of Stuart's suggestions. And that is how option 3 came into being. And then we took this area and from D and we gave it to C because our goal was to take away areas from A and to give them to C to bring the balance. And with this, we got a 3.92% maximum deviation. And there were 5 changes and about 3,000 some people would be affected. And option 4, we developed option 4 based on what we heard. And so this is sort of a hybrid option between 2 and 3. So we took away this change that was in 3, but so there is no change here. We went along here, which was presented in option 2. We took a little 1 block from here to balance things out. Then we took this polling place and put it in D because that is a polling place for D. And then this area we took from D and we gave it to E to balance things out.
This is really helpful view. Thank you.
It would be great to hear some other commission members' perspectives. Our goal is that we really need to work through our choices here and prepare for our public meeting on the 25th. So it's pretty imperative that we go through some decisions this evening.
Yep.
And can I ask a couple more questions while people are
Absolutely. And
pondering
that
and
for all the other commissioners, please, this is the point. We ask the questions. We need to make some decisions. So thank you, Diane.
just so that I'm clear on the numbers, when we're looking at these four options where we have the population affected, if we're looking at option 4 with over 2,800 people affected, that's not necessarily 2,800 voters, right? We're just talking about population, or is the baseline population numbers from the census people of voting age, or is it the total population? I'm sorry, I forgot what those.
Yeah, this is total population. It's not voting age population. This is total population.
Okay, got it. And I understand from a representation point of view that that's of course a number, but I wonder how many voters this would impact in terms of one of my concerns is how much of a burden it is then in option 4 or any of the options, and for someone to have to change districts and it be a burden to do that from the precinct or the voting the polling site.
You know, my only thought around that, Diane, though, is like in the last election, what did we see? 25% of the people voted? If
I
that.
mean, it's just right. The number is so minimal that
So yeah, I'm just thinking 25% of, let's say it's 3,000, you're still talking about 700 people total that might be affected.
yeah, and it's probably only a couple hundred in reality of
Yeah.
because this is population based.
Well, if I might say, overall, there's 55,000 voters and about 90,000 citizens. So 5.5 ninths of any group would, on average, be voters.
And if you relate that to municipal elections,
60%.
then Stuart, what is
Oh,
it?
well, they don't always vote, but they are registered voters.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay, and the municipal voting percentages are what, or the number again?
Pretty low, 25%.
It's under 25,000,
About
right?
15,000 out of 55,000 eligible.
Oh,
So,
it's under 20,000. Okay, all right.
yes, typically. I don't think it's ever been over 20. It generally has been 15,000 the last several elections. My guess is if the mayor retired and there were a big fight over his replacement, it would probably go up a little, few thousand.
Yep.
And the other question that I have is, if one of the goals is to make these districts equitable in all of the factors that we talked about in the beginning, should we have been taking a closer look at District B, not just based on numbers, but based on the demographics in B? And I'll just put this to the consultants, to Preeti and Sam, to say, is there a concern there with anything within District B?
I don't. District B, let's take a look at District B. And District B is a little short in option 1, but let's go to option 4. Okay, So District B is a little bit short, just like District A. And we have not unnecessarily changed any district. Our goal is to balance the population. And because A and C were the major ones, we did not make
Yeah.
any changes per se to.
Okay. But the balancing the population was not strictly just based on the numbers, wasn't it also based on the demographics in terms of race and income and or age or any of the other factors? Or they're completely not considered?
Race is considered, but age, we do look at voting age population, but race is considered, but not income or anything like that.
Okay, so when we look at that, you don't have any concerns through any of the districts then of from a representation point of view for either Board of Ed or council?
We did not find any apparent, at least data did not tell us about any thing that we would have to be worried about. But if you all had any local knowledge and if you wanted to look at it, then we can definitely, you can let us know. But it is one of those districts which has a minority, more minority population than any other district. A, of course, is a majority minority district, but B is an opportunity district for minorities, or I'm saying it the other way. Let me double check.
B also gains about 50 people out of Rowayton in the dwarf precinct down along that border, and loses a tiny number in the other one, where a little small number in part of the industrial area south of that joins E. Actually, so there is two other slight changes. As you can see, easily see on the map.
That's an option 4 you're talking about?
Well, they're marked in color, but not marked with the lines down at the bottom right there, right above.
This is the area that Stuart is talking about.
Yeah, the one there, there's a precinct there that there's about 50 people on Bouchard. They now join B because that district is part in both. There's a much smaller number
Yeah. It's
in B,
about-
just in the very far north of that census block, on the order of 15 by my calculation.
This,
Not that one. That one, there's even less. They basically live along Lawrence Street there, right at the top of the one. They'll move around. The one that's now marked. No. Up, back up. Yeah. I wish I could point at it, but the one there, yeah, that one. There are a few people living along Lawrence Street on the south side of it. The other street is, I forget the name, but it's industrial. It's where the car trashing place was and so far along Meadow there. The part that's now blue is industrial, and there's FedEx office and so forth. But along Lawrence, there are a few people on the south side of Lawrence. And you see how big that piece is, that particular block, census block is, because it goes all the way down into Dock Road, at the bottom of Dock Road and farther. And there's no streets across it, which is why the census people made it a precinct. Although precinct lines like that are something that the city could have some say in. They do take advice as to where how census blocks should be laid out. Obviously, nobody raised that issue before because we weren't focusing on this point. You could go, the line right across the middle as it is on the map. Currently with the taxing district line, there are no houses right along there, and it's really sort of no street either. It's an extension sort of Neptune Street. You can kind of see those numbers. And also, I don't think there are any people along where State Highway 36 and Wilson Avenue to the left of that there. That particular, that's mostly along the river. I don't think anybody lives in there. If they, I don't think could they live in there. If they did, it would be another ghost precinct. But
Nobody lives here, Stuart.
yeah, that
Yeah.
was my conclusion too.
Yeah, nobody lives there, and this particular block could go to either district, but the reason why it's in
Oh, no,
district.
you would want to
B-
leave it in E. Nobody from B lives there at all.
Yeah, and
Well,
the
any of these could theoretically go to either of the sides of the line, of course. But I'm assuming that you made your choices in regard to that largely on population and position, but it could go either way
That's correct. And
legally.
Stuart, if you realize if this block would go to District B, then there would be a contiguity issue with District E, and that is the reason why.
No, it should be where as you have it. The only one that takes a piece of any voters is the next one over that we looked at.
Mhm.
And then, of course, the other one is along the other side there, as you can see where it's reddish orange to the left of the black line. That's the area around Burchard Lane. That's another little precinct. But because they have a ballot that's different from everybody else's, because they're in District A, but some of them are in the taxing district, there's going to be a few people that have to have a separate spot to vote. Could be in the same building, but with a different line, so because they have a different ballot. If I could ask one more question of the panel, could we move back up to that little piece left of A4
Sure.
up at the top? Just so they see it, what I'm talking about. Along Glendenning, a little farther north. The piece there between the red and black lines, that's the only part of the current A4 left. And
That's
their ballot
correct.
would be the same as A3 in Kendall. And I was wondering if the committee would be comfortable in suggesting that we have them vote over there. There are disparate pieces already. I mean, there were disconnected pieces before that were part of A4. And there is one
Actually-
disconnected A3 part as well. That
So
would at least
that would
save
be-
us from making that a completely different polling location.
That would take them from A4 to A3.
Well, yes, but that's the same ballot. And it
Right.
always was. A4 and A3 always had the same ballot. It was just outside the taxing district, but to the east or to the west of the taxing district. It would have been a long way for the people from around City Hall to drive.
No, I think that
There
makes a
were
lot
many
of
more
sense
of
there.
them. Here, it's a very small number. And it's not your, once the map is drawn, it's actually the registrar's job to decide where people vote. But we try to do this in conjunction with the line changes and so forth.
And that way you can eliminate A4.
Well, yes, there's a new A4 though. That's the part by City Hall, because they live in the taxing district, but are now in C. So it ends up with the same number of A districts.
Stuart, are you talking then about people voting currently at Tracy, then moving over to Kendall? Where do they
Yes.
vote now?
No, they voted Nathan Hale now because they're
Nathan
not
Hale,
in the
okay.
taxing district. They're going a fair distance just the other way. It's about equidistant between the two, as you can see.
Mhm.
And, I mean, I don't know about how the roads are, but there's nothing that runs very directly anyway.
And that's because of the taxing district, you're saying?
Yeah, because they
Because
have a
otherwise
different
they'd
ballot.
voted
They
Tracy.
can't vote it.
Okay.
They don't get a taxing district part of the ballot. Therefore, they can't, I mean, I guess because we had a few of them, it was put at Nathan Hale many years ago, along with the little triangular piece that's so screwed up and the part up to the
Yeah.
right of
Yeah.
the area you're moving into C now. They voted, a lot of those people already voted Nathan Hale. But there's more of them in the area around City Hall and whatever you'd want to call the rest of that there. And then, of course, the left of it, we do end up with a new piece for D, which is in D, but also in the taxing district. So they have a unique ballot. And the part there where your sensor just was on Cannon Street, I don't think anybody lives there, but it would be the same as the other piece. They would have the same, they're also in the taxing district. But I don't think there are any houses there. If there are, they all would vote at wherever we put that that piece. There were somebody there, they're in exactly the same situation, and this is the one up on Ward. So we would just combine them wherever we took care of their voting.
I have to say, unrelated to the decision on the options, I'm starting to get super curious as to what the public notice would look like for this thing. B, what things would look like on the city website so that people could avail themselves and do a little due diligence. And C, how this would actually be communicated. So I hope I know we're coming up to that as well, but.
I guess as the people now living in are now voting in Rowayton and living along Burchard will be upset to be voting at Odyssey, but I'm only speculating, of course, because you'll have to explain to them that yes, they're still in the taxing district, they can still use Bailey Beach and so forth, but they'll be confused about that, would be my guess. They do, of course, vote now for different councilmen. If we make,
Diane, I'm gonna go to Sam and Preeti as far as what we would be presenting to the public would be the screens that they presented on the 4 different options in their breakdown. That would be part of the back, of the documentation for the public meeting. Am I right, Sam or Preeti?
That is correct. We
Okay.
will prepare a PowerPoint which would be focused just on the option that you select. And we will have zoomed in areas. We will have a large map and all this, a PowerPoint, a large map, identifying the areas of change. And then this would go on the website and whichever way you would draft your public notice, we will provide the supporting documentation, and it should go up on the website before the meeting, before the public hearing, so that the community has a chance to review it.
So I have a question, elaborating on Diane Cece's point. I do think that it's extremely important to make sure that the voters are informed. And at the end of the day, not everyone is going to attend the public hearing. So if there are changes, I would assume it's the responsibility of the registrar of voters to ensure that the announcements go out prior to the affected election. Is that correct?
I have no idea. We've never done this before.
Okay, and I mean, I guess what I would want to say as
Sure.
an incoming ROV is that I know we typically mail notices to voters that are affected by change, but I would really like to see like 20 steps beyond that if there are changes, because one thing that I've learned from working polls and you know, being involved in elections throughout Norwalk is a lot of people still aren't well informed and feel there's, you know, some communication lacking. So I do think if changes are made, you know, from a registrar's office, we, you know, point of view, we're going to really need to ensure community outreach beyond mailing notices and public announcements that people may or may not see. So I don't know what that will look like, but obviously we'll figure that out.
Oh,
Yeah,
we
I
we do
totally
not
agree
have
with,
their emails. We do not have the emails of the voters, and if we had them, we're not allowed to keep them under state law either.
No,
So even if we
understood.
get
I
them,
think
we're
we-
not allowed to hang on to them.
But there's so many ways to outreach, but that's a conversation for, you know, another day. But I definitely would want to see a really strong communication outreach with any changes.
yeah, and
Oh, I agree with
Diana,
that.
I would actually suggest that these proposed changes even be communicated directly to the people who are impacted ahead of the public hearing. And
I
so
don't
if
know
it were
that that's
something where there could
realistic though,
be,
Diane.
what's that?
I don't know that that's realistic to reach out to the 3,000 households that are affected.
Mhm.
I mean, the hearing, as I understand it, is 2 weeks away.
Mhm.
So to pull the data for that and then to reach out to those people through some mechanism, whether it's phone or email.
Does the city have the ability through their robocalls or text alerts perhaps to inform those specific households affected?
Well, I would suggest that if you can't hit all 2,875 of them, by the parcel, or, you know, the address for the parcel for the person who lives there, that it may be better to do nothing at all then, because you're, you know, it'd be inherently unfair to notify some people. My suggestion is that we need to give a fair opportunity for folks to know that a change is being proposed so that they can avail themselves of information and possibly speak at the hearing, pro, con, you know, or indifferent. And of course, I agree that, you know, if something did get approved, that there does have to be something fairly robust to make sure people are aware of what district they're in, you know, going forward, so that they can understand that through the political mechanisms next year, but also super important if any of the polling sites are going to change. It's got to be probably early, like I vote over here, early and often, right? The and maybe to, you know, hit this a couple times, but I don't understand why we wouldn't be able to get out a postcard mailer from the city to 2,800 people to say there's proposed changes. Maybe not even necessarily detail it, but to say your street or your parcel is impacted, and here's the link to go to on the city website, and etc.
Does Arkbridge have the street addresses in all these precincts?
We would have to get them. We don't have street addresses, but we have the census information. So yeah, if we get that, we can provide you with all the addresses that could be affected. But right now, I think the goal is for you to select a plan. And once you select a plan, then, you know, we go to the next step, that the community, and that could be done through your local newspaper, that, hey, we have a new plan, or through the radio or some mechanism that the city uses, so that people would come, and if they had any concerns, then they would come and they would be given the opportunity to speak, whereby, you can go back and say, oh, okay, I'm getting too many comments about this area. Can we do something about it? So stuff like that. And once you have a confirmed, selected that the council approves, then all the mechanisms get into place where, the registrar's office would send, we have received mailings, as citizens. So that is what you would do. But right now, the goal is to pick up land, then go to the next steps, which will eventually happen, have to happen.
You need to understand, I'm already working 6 days a week on the election this in November.
Yeah.
Getting together a list like this is a 3-week job to begin with, because we have to work from the tax maps to get the addresses and the correct sides of the streets for each parcel, one at a time, or at least in small batches. It's an incredibly tedious job. When the state redistricts, it takes me 2 months of solid work to just determine what the changes were and get everybody put in the right district that they've already created. And we don't have to inform them immediately or prepare mailings or anything at the same
But
time.
from what I understand, that this would go into effect next year. So yeah, there is time, once you approve it, the council approves it, then whatever needs to be done. So from what I understand, that it's going to be effective for 2025.
Correct. I might have time starting in about January to work on it. I'm not joking.
So it sounds like whatever we decide here, that there's going to be some responsibility kickback to the communications director in the city to be, robust and clear and direct people, as you suggested, the website and social media, and they can get some quick stuff on the radio, and we could probably do some, and I'm not suggesting we put the burden on the associations as the primary communication, because that's happened by accident in the past, but we can call on civic groups and religious groups and associations to help spread the word. I just want to make sure that in the end, the city has the responsibility of being able to say that they did everything within the reasonable, everything reasonable to make sure that anyone affected, especially the people affected know, and to make sure that, to get the word out to the whole city, especially the people that are affected. Knowing that you're never going to reach all the people, and we can tell you tales of that some other time.
Does the committee feel like we can vote at this point? I know what Scott has indicated, and I know what Diana Palladino, Christopher feels. It would be great to know what the rest of the committee is thinking about.
Can you go around the screen, Ken,
I
and call on
absolutely
folks?
can. I absolutely can. I was looking for volunteerism, but that's okay. And Brenda, you're in the top left of my screen. So tell me your quick thoughts.
So I'm having a concern about A and B being chopped up, moving around. That's my concern. A and B.
Preeti, are we taking out of B? We're not chopping B, are we?
Just those few, about 3 voters along, or a handful of voters on Lawrence Street.
Okay.
Outside, I believe, move the way this is currently proposed.
Okay. And A, Brenda, my understanding is A was overpopulated, so that our goal was to put them to C because they were underpopulated. Am I right, Preeti?
That is correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So what are your thoughts, Brenda? Could you pick an option at this point?
No, I'll just listen to everyone else and see what they have to say. But
Right.
those are my concerns, okay?
Right. But please bear in mind that we really should try to make a decision this evening. So I'll move to Kia, please.
I think we have good options in 3 and 4. I can't pinpoint exactly, make a decision as of this now, right now, but I think between options 3 and 4, we have some good examples.
And that kind of correlates to what Scott was talking about. Diane? Diane, see, yeah.
Oh, it's back over to me again. Okay, so I will, and I share Brenda's concern as well. I think I'd want to have another take a look there at B, but I never really felt very strongly either way between the difference of two and 3. And the right now, honestly, I could go either way between 3 and 4. I have a little bit concern about the chunk coming over from A to C that ends up going north of the highway. When I was looking at the map and because we don't have anything interactive, it was hard for me to tell whether or not it would make more sense to go west of East Avenue, coming over like where Hendrix is, and in that direction, and maybe go up to Moody's Lane or hit up to the to City Hall. But I didn't understand how those numbers might work. Because I just think, you know, and I understand what Diane is saying about people probably associating more with Eastern Norwalk than with Central Norwalk, for lack of a better term for A, or the downtown and that whole middle section. But if we and again, I just want to say, like, I'm totally okay with option 4. I just wonder if it makes any sense, or does it help out Stewart with a taxing district, or does it help out with anything else if we shift across the East Avenue, just north of 95?
I'm not sure what you're saying, Diane, but the East Avenue is the dividing line between 137 and 143. So it's an existing line which has at least makes our job easier. We already know every address that would be in that little section there that's moving, because it's already in 130 in 143 and in A. So we can pinpoint those from the conjunction of those two groups.
So you're saying you're talking about the state districts, correct? In terms of
but the system has the people and their addresses signed in both on both maps, and so if you use the same line, it makes life easier because I don't have to look them up. I already have something that tells me what there is in that group. The same with the group to the right. It's already voting at Nathan Hale, and it's part of A4, and we know exactly who those people already are because they're already being sent to A4.
So if I'm looking at Moody's Lane going south to the highway, the orange here, the western part of East Avenue.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
So if you look at Moody's Lane across from across from Buckingham.
Yep.
So where we're shifting stuff from A into C, what I was asking is if we took from Moody's Lane and came down to Hendrix, right down to I-95, Because you're saying this is part of A and it's part of 143 right now?
No,
do-
that's
but-
part of, that's 137. It's weird.
Okay.
137 is Marvin, and then the Center City, Jefferson, the Stimula, the library, and Tracy. 143 is the area that starts at Nathan Hale, goes up to Wolf Pit, and over to West
All
Rock.
right, so if we took 130, I guess my question is, does it make any sense to shift into from A to C, the population from Moody's Lane down to Hendricks?
Well, as much as anything,
But I'm saying in lieu of where you split the taxing district up in the upper right-hand corner, forgive me, I forget the name of those streets up there, I think.
Diane, are you talking about this area?
Yeah, I'm talking about that area up to Moody's or up to where it splits at
Moody's is here.
Morgan.
Yeah, Moody's is here.
Uh-huh.
and what would we do differently on the other, what other thing would
And so I
change?
didn't know the population numbers there compared to the upper right corner. I need to see that other little sliver again. I forget what that was up there. We talked a lot
Okay.
about this little triangle up there.
Yeah, I'll
it-
take you there, but for now, there are 346 people who live in this area.
Mhm.
And what were you thinking? You wanted them to go from A to C?
I was wondering if that makes more sense from like what Diana was talking about in terms of associating more with kind of what we call Eastern Norwalk than it does for the upper right triangle that you moved in from A. If you go
Okay.
up the
Yeah, okay, one
Um,
second. A to C, now C is at a good spot. It's already 432 more
Mhm.
than it needs to be. So, but anyway, keep in
but
mind.
if you
this
move
is-
that other sliver back into A is what I'm saying,
Yeah,
or wherever it came from, the one in the upper right.
yeah.
If you come
So-
back in within the taxing district there,
Yeah, okay, hang on for a minute.
I'm just throwing this out as one last possibility, because I can actually
Yeah.
picture some of these folks saying, well, why are we still in A when we're really kind of more like the same concerns and things that council would be concerned with are more aligned with C, I'm thinking, but I actually would like to get Diana's opinion on that too, and also Scott.
Well, that,
So,
that
alright.
currently is going from A to C.
yeah, this is currently in A and we are putting it in C.
Right,
But
so if you
from
didn't,
what I
if,
understand is that you're saying, let this be in A.
right,
And put that piece down in C. Is that what you're saying?
that's what I was suggesting, or at least a portion of that where the taxing district overflowed, if not all of it. So you take that piece that's just north of Westport Avenue of US 1, leave that in C, and shift the I-95 portion of East Avenue from A to C.
Okay.
Can
so
you
what
do just a what if and then clear it out so I
Yeah,
don't mess you up?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. So what we can do is we can put this in A.
Mhm.
Okay, let's see. We are
Leave
trying
it
to
in
do
A.
it live, so if we can do that. Let's go and see that, let's go.
It's currently in A.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, today it's in A,
Right.
right, but instead of putting it in C, I'm saying leave it
That-
where it
That
is.
does make that triangle another dwarf piece.
Yeah, okay, let's see if we pick this and we put
Right.
this in,
That's condominium area, that has a fairly high per square foot
so,
population.
yeah,
right?
so it won't be bad. This is something that we can look at for sure. I mean, if this is something that would work, I'm okay with it because my deviation actually goes kind of like 0.2 down. So we can do that.
That
And-
may
and
make
what-
sense.
So it doesn't actually help Stewart with the.
No, it
with the
hurts. Now
taxing
instead
district.
of just the
Oh, it
Glendenning,
hurts.
which we could move, we have to deal with that little triangle too.
Okay,
Because that's now, there are currently three pieces in A4. The Glendenning Street, the triangle, and the area to the shaded area, but to east of the red line are the three pieces. And you're currently moving two of them. They would now B and C, they vote at Nathan Hale. They're not even changed in where they vote. So that's good. And from their point of view, and we could move Glendenning to Kendall. It's about it's a distance, but so is Nathan Hale, and there aren't very many people there, and that would mean we wouldn't have to deal separately with that piece as in some other voting location.
Okay, and so what would happen with the people in the down at Moody's Lane down to Hendricks, then you're saying?
Well,
If we
currently
change
they're
them
A and they
into A
voted
to C.
off the top of my head, Jefferson and the library, and they would continue to do it. If they move them, you'd have to probably put them in Nathan Hale, I assume.
Yeah, they would have to go to Nathan Hale.
I mean, there's no have to in this world, but there's no other place to put them.
Right,
Understood. Mhm.
right.
We can't
And-
use City Hall for anything because we're using practically all the rooms now for early voting.
Mhm.
And we'll have that next year again.
This may not be a bad change because it's taking one side of the river and putting it in C.
And I think it's kind of a natural break point up there too at where you
Moody's.
hit before, yeah,
Moody's.
exactly.
Yeah.
Buckingham but and I didn't mean to throw this in at the last minute, but I also want to make sure I'm kind of just putting on my resident hat and having people look at this map and say, you know, does this make sense? Scott or Diana, do you have any feeling on shifting this down?
Yeah, I think if that seems like if the committee feels that that makes a bit more sense, I don't see an issue with that. I think that like that Highbrook Nelson area is kind of on that cusp. I don't necessarily think of that as East Norwalk, but I don't necessarily think of that as Central Norwalk. So I think that there's,
Right.
you know, there's
Yeah, it's sort of a no man's land, right?
Yeah.
So-
Exactly.
that
Yeah,
there's wiggle room there. So if it makes more sense to
Yeah.
take that other piece,
right.
I do think, sure, why not?
The only thing, honestly, I liked the simplicity. The triangle, like I don't have Stuart's concerns because I don't have to deal with Stuart's concerns, but that bugs the heck out of me. So just from a
We'd love
symmetry
to kill the
standpoint, there's-
triangle, frankly.
We chose this line because East Avenue seemed to be a nice, neat.
yeah, I agree. Like I'm saying that upper corner where, what is it, Merrill and Highbrook,
Nelson, Harrison.
exactly.
Roosevelt.
That's the part that I look at and I'm like, it just, but yeah, it's there now. So I'm just saying, as long as we were cleaning it up, I liked the fact that that got cleaned up some in option 4. So
Every bit of cleanup saves a few bucks, and we don't even have the space to have the new equipment that we're gonna need to have new little precincts, so it's a real problem. Much more than the money
sure.
even, just so you understand it,
Yeah, whose house are you going to put it at?
yeah. Our basement area is not big enough. Every other part of the basement is chock full of things, so we don't really have, there's no way to really redesign that. Well, I mean, there is, we could tell the mayor to get some of his records out of somewhere else or something, but I don't know
True.
that that's gonna work. I
Well,
still would like to
it's
add
not
just,
relevant to tonight, Stuart, but I think, you know, the health department is also a public building as well, right there. So if we're looking for capacity, that's not going to be Nathan Hale and it can't be City Hall. You know, that building would be available. All right.
Right, Diana, that
Hey,
may be
Brenda.
possible. Problem is, we would have to, we have equipment, we have to unload it from cabinets, change it a lot, reload it. You know, we have to go across the street to do that. There's a lot of extra work.
Gotcha.
I'm
I
not saying we
gotcha.
can't do it. We can do anything if we have the manpower and the money and all
Right.
that.
Okay, before
Can
we
I
get
just ask if Brenda wanted to weigh in on this discussion, if you have any feelings one way or the other on if there should be any shift here? Brenda's still there. Just be,
I'm
I'd like to
okay,
hear.
Diane, thank you.
Would you? With the way it is? Okay.
And I did want clarification because Brenda brought up a good point, but it was my understanding that B is minimally affected, if even at all, correct? Am I understanding that
That
correctly?
is correct.
Okay, okay.
That is correct.
Which
And-
one?
B as in boy.
So
Yeah.
my concern though
Tiny numbers.
is that we're doing inner city mostly, doing the changes. And that's where people of color live. And I don't want them to be. Diane did a good job just now. So
Yeah, you don't want them to be disenfranchised, right? I get it.
So she's done a better job than it was, but I don't. And that's how it looked to me, that it was going that way.
No, that makes sense. That's good. Yeah, so I think definitely, I think it makes sense then most certainly to make that change. So I amend my recommendation. And I like what I'm seeing with the that inclusion of what was it, Sherry Elton and East Ave.
Yeah, I like that change too. I think it makes sense.
As far as the demographics goes, I just want to let Brenda know that District B is definitely a majority district with over, so if we look at the non-Hispanic white population, it's about 22%. So it's definitely a majority district. And if you look at District A, I call it an minority opportunity district because the non-Hispanic white percentage is 35. So it's an opportunity district. So both A and B is clearly majority. But if you look at District A, that still is an opportunity district for the minority. So if your concern is that we are doing anything there, we are chopping or moving the minorities somewhere or diluting it, we are not doing it. And if you look at the map in more detail, we have kind of not touched District B. We haven't made many changes to District B so that it maintains its current character. And District A, we have to take away population just because it has the most. And C has the least. So we are not chopping any areas of A or B unnecessarily.
So what have you done to E and D?
For E and D, if you look at D, what we have done is we have added this area, which is currently in E. We are assigning it to D primarily because this polling place is currently it's in E, but really it's a polling place for D. So that was a suggestion from Stuart that we thought was good and we incorporated.
But who lives in E and D?
If you look at E and D,
I know who lives in E and D. That's why I'm posing the question.
So Preeti, I think what I'm hearing at least is just like you showed us the A, B, C, D, that it would be valuable of the 4 options. It would be good to understand what the demographic shifts are between what we have today and the A, B, C, D options, to make sure that what Ms. Penn Williams is saying, that we're not inadvertently creating a problem. And I get what you're saying, that when we look at the sheet, it doesn't look that way, but it would be good to understand the impact of the changes.
Absolutely. I can look at that right now.
Thank you, Scott.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, as I said in my initial presentation, that District B is a minority majority district with over 50% minority population. Okay, so that has not changed in any of the options.
Okay, perfect.
And District A was never is an opportunity district where the non-Hispanic white population is a minority. So if you look at Hispanics and non-Hispanic Blacks and other minorities, it's an opportunity district. So that status has not changed. Does that answer your question, Ms. Williams?
What type of you said the District D is minorities in District
No.
D?
Oh,
No,
B and
no.
A and B.
Oh, okay.
A
Okay.
and B, A and B.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the others I'm not talking about.
I think everybody in Norwalk has a pretty good idea of the ethnicities of A and B, at least everybody on this committee, which is fine, of course. I mean, and we know that you need those kinds of districts, and we want to do minimal changes to them, if any.
And if you look at the map, you know, this District B, we really haven't made any changes. So no changes other than the ones which are sort of inevitable because of block boundaries. So
Yeah,
here you can see you're getting some extra areas, a little bit where not many people live.
Very, very few. That's almost
Yeah.
all industrial where you're pursuing.
And here too in Science Road area, very few people
Nobody
live.
lives there either.
Yeah, so we are not chopping
That's
District
the
B in any way.
that's the Children's Museum there
Yeah.
on Science Road and the old police station, that area.
Mhm.
There's one house, and I don't know if they'll ever let anybody live in it again, but it's a very nice museum.
And so just for clarification then, Brenda, were there concerns within D and E? Or there was just some confusion to what district we were?
Diane, I think you did a good job of splitting it up and moving it around. I think you did a great job of that. Thank you so much.
Okay, so you're good with D and E?
I am.
Okay. Yeah, and I think Diane's change makes a lot of sense to my initial recommendation.
Yeah, I'm kind of feeling that way too, but I really am not, anxious to completely botch up, the registrar's office or add more costs or, more polling places and everything else. I'm just thinking more from a representation of
Community.
community. That's a good word. There you go.
Great.
And,
Okay.
at some time, maybe in my lifetime, we will have increased the size of the council anyway, so that there would be a larger council. And I know council folks can speak to the fact that there is way too much workload with committees for the people we have, and it's spread
Yeah.
thin as it is in terms of all those committees, the impact on the community. So hopefully at some point that will happen, which actually just raised another question, and maybe you answered this in the beginning, Preeti, but how often do census blocks change? Is it every, do they change every 10 years, or the blocks stay the same? And
No,
would,
they update the census blocks definitely every 10 years.
okay, so it
With
may
every
not change
census,
at
the
all,
blocks
or
change a little. They
Yeah.
stay, at least
Pretty
in
close.
Norwalk, they stay very, there's a
Okay.
lot of similarity from the two census I've looked at, and done it very carefully.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, so the concerns that we raised early on, and I think Scott did as well, is that we know coming down the pike, I'm gonna speak because I happen to live in East Norwalk, but there's gonna be major changes in East Norwalk over the next 5 to 10 years or so, and I know we're gonna take another bite at this apple ahead of it to just kind of do a sanity check and be prepared. And then I think Stuart said, or Preeti said, you figure on a year or two after the census when all the data is available.
Yeah, I thought that
Wait,
was a good
excuse me.
suggestion from someone
Ken,
last week that if we.
Sorry, I
Oh,
need to
yeah.
go. I can't
Oh.
stay on here anymore, so I just wanted to give you guys a heads up, so I have to sign off.
Can
I'm
you
okay
give us
with
your
this.
perspective, Jody, before you
Yes,
leave?
I'm fine. This option with Diane's changes,
Good,
I'm fine with that. I apologize, but I have to
that's
go.
okay.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Ken, so sorry about that. I didn't know if you were watching for hands that were raised. I didn't mean to be hogging all of this with
No,
questions and stuff,
no,
but in the absence of,
there aren't any
Okay.
additional hands raised that I can see. But,
but I guess I'm sorry. I know you were meaning to go around the blocks here, and I botched it up there.
no, that's it. I mean, so far, most of us, the general consensus is this amended option 4, but I'd really like to hear what Susan feels and Kia feels. And at that point, if they're agreeable, we've come up with a recommendation that we can still fine tune next week, but we know where we're going.
I don't know if I'm unmuted or not, but I
You
definitely,
are not, we can hear you.
okay, good. So I'm really good with 4 and the recommendations that Diana was making too.
Great. How about you, Kia?
Yes, I agree with Diane's recommendations too. For option 4.
I think we've made some great headway this evening. And so from this point, Preeti, if you can make those changes and get those to us so we can actually start to formulate what we need to do going forward. Is everybody in agreement with that?
I am.
Good. I
Do we
appreciate
need to,
everybody's.
I see the secretary on. Do we need a formal vote on it?
We can do that.
I don't know that we need it. I'm just asking.
I will do that so there's a formality to it. All in favor of option 4 with the discussed changes, raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Through the chair, this is the secretary. Who is moving the item?
Oh, I'll move that that we vote on option 4 with the changes discussed this evening.
And I will second.
Thank you, Mr. Goodwin.
And so then if it's coming to a vote,
Yes,
Aye.
vote. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. At this point, we can move to adjourn and we will formulate this recommendation.
Actually, Ken,
Yes.
for the public hearing, I had a couple questions.
Sure.
If that's okay, I'm sorry, everybody.
No, that's okay. It's in 2 weeks and we need
Okay.
to formulate the presentation next
Yeah.
week. for that.
Yeah, yeah. So, two things I have. I just only realized today that it was posted as a public hearing at 6 o'clock. And that can be burdensome for folks. I don't expect a big turnout for all the reasons we spoke about earlier. But 6 o'clock can be kind of crazy. And I realize that a lot of people are not eager to have anything at 7 o'clock. I wonder if we could meet in the middle at 6:30 for people who are settling in with kids or dinner or commuting or hopping off a train and if you guys have no problem with the 6 o'clock, I'll just be quiet with that. And then I have another question.
Diane, just to make sure I understand, you're saying for next Thursday's meeting?
No, I'm sorry, no, for the public hearing.
Got
The
it.
public hearing is, it's already noticed on the city website, and I only realized today that reads 6 o'clock because because that's what our meetings are. But public
Correct.
hearings at 6 o'clock really kind of said, we don't really want to hear from you at all.
Got it.
Oh, and I realized at 7 o'clock, I mean, I personally prefer 7, but I was wondering if how people felt, and then maybe we meet in the middle at 6:30, so it gets posted that way. And then the second part
So-
is do we have a sample legal notice? Because I know you were anxious to get something in as a notice. And if that's particularly ambiguous and cryptic because there's really nothing meaty to put in there, I was wondering what that would look like for this weekend when it gets posted.
The legal notice went out on Friday. It did, I didn't verify if it got posted yet.
You mean for tomorrow? Okay, so do you have a sample of it from legal or from the from
I
Irene's
received,
office?
yeah, it came from Irene and Esther, that's correct. And it's just a simple notice of public hearing and the date and the time.
But did it direct people to where to go on the city website to get the information? Because that's my third part of the question is, I had a little trouble finding it myself. So where
Yeah,
are
hold
we
on, I'm
directing
gonna
people?
look and see exactly what it says here. Hold on.
Perhaps we could create a QR code that people could go to.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll be for the legal posting or not, but there could be something that, the QR code could be used for, social media and emails and stuff like that, but,
Yeah, I'm just looking at for the public here we go. Here's, I'll read it to everybody. Notice is hereby given that the Reappointment Advisory Committee is holding a public hearing regarding the redistricting of councilmatic districts on Wednesday, September 25th, 2024 at 6 p.m. The public may access this meeting by attending in person in the council chambers in the Norwalk City Hall or via Zoom, or later as a recording in the City of Norwalk YouTube channel. Specific instructions and links can be found at norwalkct.gov/meetings.
so it doesn't actually direct them specifically to the page that's going to have the PowerPoint that's going to be finalized next week.
I think as far as being publicized in the newspaper, that's what they're doing. So they're saying,
Okay.
go to the website and you will have that link,
Mhm.
just
Yeah,
like our links.
Yeah, that directs them to the link for like how to do Zoom and stuff. But all right, I will let that go only because I happen to know that I'm one of probably 6 people in the city that actually reads the hour and much less goes to the legal notices every day. But I certainly like things to be fair, and the way and I'll just say this because people have heard me say this before. Our legal notices are woefully inadequate in terms of giving people an opportunity to be informed and engaged. And I was hoping that wouldn't be the case with this, but and knowing that that's only one tool in the toolbox for getting the word out, it's not that big a deal. But having that you cannot change the time now, unfortunately, because the legal notice is the actual legal notice, so.
Correct.
It will be 6 o'clock. And in council chambers, and then the PowerPoint and all the materials would be ready.
Yes.
Is there a ballpark for next week on that?
We can send something to you all, a PowerPoint, and then you can take a look at it and see, okay, this could be added or that could be added. But the PowerPoints are pretty much informative of what the proposed changes are with the statistics, numbers, so. Similar to what you've been seeing, but then they'd be focused just on the modified option 4.
And they would be posted on the city website. When would the PowerPoint be on the website?
That is a Ken.
That's what we'll figure if that can occur, Diane.
Hmm.
But I want to verify you guys are in Virginia, so virtually we're going to need to present that to the public at the meeting.
But
Okay.
in addition to having it on the website ahead of the meeting, right? Or no?
No, that's a really good point, Diane, because I think you and I have run up against that before with East Norwalk rezoning issues where
Yeah.
things get posted as the meeting is starting, and we want to try to make sure that people have a chance to review the materials ahead of time.
So
Exactly, Scott. If you're asking them to comment on something, the thing is, what am I commenting on? And just to see it for the first time at a public hearing, which is why I originally suggested a forum just to get all this out there and then have the actual legal hearing. But the clock has run out.
if we can have that PowerPoint presentation prior to next week, so we've all had a chance to look at it at our September 19th meeting, if it is approved by this commission, we can then put a link to it in for the meeting. So prior, I'll verify
Okay.
we can do
I
that
think
with
that's great
IT.
if we
So-
could do that.
Yeah, and I think the only thing we risk at this point then is that the legal notice, let's say somebody's reading the legals this weekend, they go to the regular meeting notices link that's in the legal notice, and there's really gonna be nothing there. They'll just see the public hearing, but there's nothing to click on yet, except they could scroll through our minutes and go through YouTube videos. But I think if that's the worst that can happen, we're still okay. It's not ideal, but as
Yeah,
long
that
as
horse
as
has
long
left
as
the
it gets
barn, right?
posted.
So
What's that, Scott?
I said that horse has left the barn.
Yeah,
Like you said
exactly.
a minute ago,
Yeah.
the legal notice has been posted. So
Yeah,
now
yeah.
it's a question of how quickly can we put something out there?
Well,
right.
And I think
and-
next Thursday makes sense based on our timeline.
And we've been fortunate that the local press has been viewing this meeting. So we may have coverage via those outlets. Anybody else need to discuss anything, or can I adjourn the meeting? Thank you for everybody's input.
All right, I'll move to
All in
adjourn.
favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody.
Night, everybody.
Good night.
everybody.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Have a good night.